You built something most men only dream about. Decades of experience, hard-won wisdom, a life that's finally on your terms. And now someone is suggesting you hand all of that over to a woman who may not even understand what it took to get here. Here's what nobody in your circle has the nerve to say out loud. For men over 60, a girlfriend isn't just a relationship. For many of you, she will become the single greatest threat to the peace, the freedom, and the financial stability you spent a lifetime earning. And reason number 5, the one buried at the end of this video, that one doesn't just surprise men, it stops them cold. If you're a man past 60, whether you're divorced, widowed, or simply done with the chaos that relationships brought earlier in your life, this video was made with your specific situation in mind. Not for men in their 30s who still have time to recover from mistakes. Not for the younger crowd navigating the early confusion of dating. This is for the man who has earned the right to ask a harder question. Is a girlfriend actually what I want, or is it what I've been told I should want? Those are two completely different things, and the difference between them could cost you everything. Here's what we're going to cover: 5 reasons, real, psychologically grounded, financially honest reasons why many men over 60 are choosing to walk away from the traditional relationship model entirely. Not out of bitterness, not because they hate women, but because they've done the math emotionally and practically, and the numbers don't add up. I want to make you a specific promise before we go further. By the time this video ends, you will not see your situation the same way you did 5 minutes ago. You'll understand things about female psychology, about emotional labor, and about your own nervous system that most men don't discover until it's already cost them something irreplaceable. Now, 2 things I want you to keep in mind as we go. First, the 3rd reason on this list is the one most financial advisors won't bring up, even though the data is devastating. We'll get there. Second, the psychology behind reason number 5 explains something about human behavior that goes far deeper than relationships. It touches on identity itself. Stay with me. The men who understand what I'm about to share don't walk around angry at women. They walk around free. There's a difference. And that distinction between resentment and genuine liberation is exactly where this conversation is going. Let's start at the beginning. Section 3. The suspense/truth reveal 3:30, 8 o'clock, approximately 780 words. Reason 1. The emotional labor imbalance is not equal. And at 60, you'll feel it more than ever. Most men who enter relationships in their 60s believe they're emotionally mature enough to handle anything. And compared to who they were at 30, they probably are. But here's what they don't account for. Women across all ages are socialized to need emotional processing out loud, constantly, recurrently, and the research on this is consistent. Women in relationships report needing significantly more verbal, emotional engagement than men are naturally inclined to provide. At 25, you had the energy to show up for that. At 60, your nervous system has a different relationship with sustained emotional intensity. This isn't weakness, it's physiology. And entering a relationship that structurally demands what your biology no longer freely gives. That's not companionship. That's a slow drain. Reason 2. Freedom doesn't feel like a loss until it's gone. Ask any man who repartnered after 60. What surprised him most? Nearly every one of them will tell you some version of the same thing. They didn't realize how much they valued their own schedule until someone else started having feelings about it. Where you go, when you eat, how you spend a Tuesday afternoon, who you call, how loud the television gets at 9 p.m. These are not small things. These are the texture of a life, and when a girlfriend enters that life, even a reasonable, well-meaning one, the negotiation begins every single day. Psychologists call this autonomy, erosion. It doesn't happen in a dramatic moment. It happens in 100 quiet compromises, each one individually meaningless, collectively suffocating. Reason 3. The financial vulnerability nobody talks about. This is the one that men over 60 consistently underestimate until it's too late. At this stage of life, you likely have accumulated assets, a home, retirement savings, investments, pension income, perhaps, an inheritance. You are statistically more financially vulnerable in a new relationship than you were at any previous point in your life. Why? Because the assets are real now. The stakes are real now, and the legal protections many men assume exist don't. Common law, partnership rights, palimony claims, and cohabitation laws vary by state and country. But in many jurisdictions, a woman who lives with you for as little as 6 months can establish legal claims to your property. This is not a fringe scenario. Family law attorneys see it routinely. And here's the deeper psychological layer. Men over 60 who enter new relationships often do so from a place of loneliness. Loneliness is a cognitive impairment, not just an emotion. Research published in peer-reviewed journals has repeatedly shown that chronic loneliness impairs judgment in ways that are functionally similar to mild intoxication. You make decisions you wouldn't otherwise make. You overlook red flags you would normally catch immediately. This is not about assuming bad intentions from any particular woman. It's about understanding the conditions under which your own discernment becomes unreliable. Protect your discernment by protecting your solitude. Reason 4. You've already paid the emotional price of previous relationships. Why pay it again? Attachment theory, the psychological framework that explains how humans form emotional bonds, tells us something important about men who've been through divorce, loss, or long-term relationship breakdown. Their nervous systems develop what researchers call hypervigilance to relational threat. In plain language, a part of you is always waiting for things to go wrong again. This isn't paranoia. It's a learned response to real experience. But here's the problem. That hypervigilance doesn't protect you. It exhausts you. And in a new relationship, it activates constantly. Every unanswered message, every shift in her mood, every ambiguous moment becomes data your nervous system is frantically trying to interpret. At 60, you don't have to live in that activation anymore. Many men don't realize this is a choice until someone points it out. Your peace isn't a waiting room, it's a destination, and then there's reason 5. The one that cuts deepest. The one that isn't about money or time or emotional labor, but about something most men have never even named in themselves. We'll get there, but first, let's talk about what you actually do with this awareness. Understanding the risks isn't enough. The question is, what does a man over 60 actually do to build a life that feels full without surrendering the things that took decades to earn? Here are 5 clear moves. Each one is grounded in psychology. Each one comes with a warning about where men typically go wrong. Step 1. Audit. What you're actually looking for. The action. Spend 1 week writing down every moment you feel lonely and then identify specifically what's missing in that moment. Is it touch, conversation, shared laughter, someone to eat with, someone to call in an emergency? The psychology behind this. Most men over 60 who seek girlfriends are not actually seeking a romantic partner. They're seeking a specific feeling, warmth, validation, belonging that they've associated with romantic partnership through decades of conditioning. But those individual feelings can be sourced independently, without the full architecture of a relationship. Once you know exactly what you're missing, you can address it directly instead of importing an entire relationship to solve one problem. The warning: men who skip this step tend to enter relationships out of ambient discomfort rather than genuine desire. That's how you end up 6 months in wondering how you got there. Step 2. Build a social architecture that doesn't depend on one person. The action. Deliberately build or expand 3 categories of connection. A close male friendship, one person you can be fully honest with. A community context, a group, class, organization, or regular gathering. And a purposeful pursuit, something you're actively learning or building. The psychology behind this social redundancy is the technical term. When your emotional needs are distributed across multiple sources, no single absence becomes catastrophic. A man with one source of connection, his girlfriend, is perpetually vulnerable. A man with 3 is structurally stable. The warning: most men over 60 have allowed their male friendships to atrophy. This is the single most common and most damaging gap. Rebuilding it feels uncomfortable at first. Do it anyway. Step 3. Establish financial clarity before any relationship gets serious. The action. Consult a family law attorney in your specific jurisdiction to understand exactly what legal exposure you carry. If you cohabitate with or financially support a partner, know the numbers, know your rights, have the documents, the psychology behind this. This step does something beyond legal protection. It interrupts the cognitive dissonance loop that traps men in relationships that are wrong for them. When you have conscious, explicit knowledge of the stakes involved, your decision-making improves measurably. The loneliness-induced judgment impairment mentioned earlier, this is the antidote. Clarity is protection. The warning: men who say, "I'll handle that later," never handle it. Do it before you need it. Step 4. Practice deliberate solitude, not passive loneliness. The action: Distinguish between chosen solitude and imposed loneliness. Once a day, spend 30 minutes in a state of intentional quiet. Not distraction, not television, not scrolling, just presence with your own thoughts. The psychology behind this research on introspection, your ability to perceive your own internal states, shows that men who regularly practice quiet attention to their inner experience make significantly better decisions and report higher baseline satisfaction. Solitude, practiced deliberately, is a cognitive upgrade. It's also the primary way men over 60 begin to hear what they actually want beneath the noise of what they've been told they should want. The warning: this step will feel uncomfortable before it feels valuable. The discomfort is the point. Lean in. Step 5. Redefine what a full life looks like at this stage. The action: write down your current definition of a fulfilling life, then ask how much of that definition was written by you and how much was inherited from cultural scripts about what men are supposed to want at every age. The psychology behind this. Erik Erikson's framework of adult development identifies the stage many men over 60 are in as generativity versus stagnation, a phase where the deepest fulfillment comes not from romantic acquisition but from contribution, mastery, and meaning. The men who thrive in this stage are not the ones who found a girlfriend. They are the ones who found their purpose. The warning: this is not a suggestion to give up on connection. It's a suggestion to pursue the kind of connection that actually matches who you are right now, not who you were at 35. Now, reason 5. Here it is plainly. The deepest reason many men over 60 should reconsider having a girlfriend is that a relationship, particularly the wrong one, will ask you to become a smaller version of yourself. Not through malice, not through manipulation necessarily, but through the slow structural pressure of accommodation, of managing someone else's emotions, of softening your edges so a relationship can survive. And the man you've become, the one forged through decades of difficulty, failure, and hard-won clarity, that man does not become smaller gracefully. He becomes quietly resentful or silently numb. And in both cases, the most valuable version of you disappears. That's the one no one says. That's the one that matters most. Let's slow down for a moment because I know some of you watching this aren't just gathering information. You're sitting with something heavier than that. Maybe it's been months since real conversation with someone who knows you. Maybe you're watching this at an hour when the house is quiet in a way that doesn't feel peaceful. It just feels empty. I'm not going to tell you that feeling isn't real. It is real. It's one of the most human experiences there is. But here's what I need you to hear. The discomfort you're feeling right now is not evidence that you need a girlfriend. It's evidence that you're paying attention to your life, and that's different. That distinction matters enormously. The men who rush back into relationships from a place of that discomfort don't end the discomfort. They relocate it. They trade the quiet ache of solitude for the chronic low-grade stress of a relationship that doesn't fit. And they spend years wondering why the loneliness didn't go away. The question is not, how do I stop feeling this? The question is, what is this feeling telling me about what I actually need? That's a harder question. It takes longer to answer, but the answers it produces are the ones you can actually build something real on. Here's the reframe I want to leave you with. Your independence at this stage of your life is not a consolation prize. It is not what you settle for when the relationship doesn't work out. It is, for many men over 60, the most sophisticated and self-aware choice available. It takes more self-knowledge to choose a life of deliberate solitude than it does to enter a relationship because you're uncomfortable. It takes more courage to sit with the question of what you truly want than to simply accept what's offered. And it takes a specific kind of emotional maturity, the kind that only comes from living long enough to understand that companionship and a girlfriend are not the same thing. You can have connection, deep, meaningful, sustaining connection with friends, with family, with community, with purpose, without signing over your mornings, without negotiating your evenings, without wondering 6 months from now how your own home became a place where you walk on eggshells. The men who get this right don't end up isolated, they end up selective. And there's a version of your life available right now where the people in it are there because they genuinely add to what's already good, not because you needed someone to fill a silence. That version of your life is worth protecting. It's worth choosing deliberately, and it's worth being honest about even when the conversation is uncomfortable. You spent decades building something. Don't give it away because the evenings got quiet. The silence isn't a problem. It might be the first time in years you can actually hear yourself think. If this video gave you something real to think about, hit subscribe. I put out content like this regularly for men who are done with the generic advice and want something that actually respects their intelligence. And drop a comment below. What's the one thing from this video that hit hardest for you? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next